Now, a story that we brought to you a little bit earlier on, and we promised to get you a different aspect of this development. In 2018, you'll remember, gold miners who suffered from silicosis won a R5 billion court settlement brought against the gold industry by human rights lawyer Richard Spoor. Now, the Tshiamiso Trust was set up with a mandate to ensure that those who have silicosis or work-related tuberculosis are in fact compensated. The first payment was expected at the end of this month, but while the pilot phase has begun, no claimants have yet been paid. The COVID-19 pandemic is one of the reasons why this has been delayed. We spoke to Richard Spoor earlier on. Let's bring in now Professor May Hermanus, who is chair of the Tshiamiso Trust. Prof, thanks very much for your time and welcome to the AM report. Of course, once again, we're learning COVID-19 sparing no process that had been underway before the pandemic arrived. Give us an idea of how this global health crisis has delayed your efforts to identify claimants and ensure that they pay it on time.
Okay, so let me just start off by saying that the COVID-19 situation has really just changed our approach. In terms of our process, actually we're running just a few weeks late as opposed to extremely late. And I think I do need to just spell out for you what the timeline has been, because I think there's a sense that I have from the opening comments is that the trust was established in 2018 after the court case was settled. And that's not the case. The trust was actually formally established this year only. So I was appointed along with my fellow trustees as the full board of trustees on the 6th of February. So in 2019, there were a number of still legal issues that followed the settlement. The first was that the court itself had to examine the terms of the settlement and agree that it was appropriate, and that was done. And that was done in June last year. And then after June, there was an opt-out period, and that opt-out period essentially allowed individual miners to consider whether they wanted to participate in the trust or not. And if more than 22,000 people decided to opt out, then it would be back to the drawing board. Now that process, the opt-out period concluded in November, and then there was an audit that needed to be done. And as far as I understand, only 3 people wanted to opt out. So the trust then was confirmed as an appropriate vehicle to essentially deal with the settlement, and the agreement was accepted. So the trustees then have to be appointed by the master of the court, and all of us were appointed by the 6th of February. Now, we obviously haven't been sitting on our laurels. We've had to look at what we can do to try and get the trust established as an organization, because when something's established on paper, that's very different from having a functioning organization. And essentially what we've done is worked along 2 tracks. One was looking at what we need to do to set up the overall governance structures of the trust, which I think most people would be familiar with. What do the trustees have to do? Do they understand their responsibilities properly? What policies need to go into place? What legal issues need to be sorted out? All to try and ensure that we have a solid governance structure. And then at the same time, what do we do to try and ensure that we can get the process moving? Yeah. And our decision has been to really work with the different organizations that have been involved in establishing databases and so on, so that we build on rather than start afresh. So that has been our approach, to build on. Now, let's come back to COVID-19. What COVID-19 has done is essentially made the process of outreaches, where one would meet miners face-to-face and be able to do the necessary medical assessments face-to-face, impossible for the time being. Obviously, the problem is both the gathering of people, but also the problem with the lung function test.
Yeah,
the lung function test.
I can imagine how that's it. Yeah, I can imagine how that's complicated a part of your work. I guess the remaining question with the small amount of time we have left is, how soon can some of the miners who are eligible for this compensation actually expect their first payment then?
Okay, so at the moment the first payment is under consideration by the SPV, which is the body representing the founders, and essentially once they come back to us, they have up to 90 days to confirm whether the claim that has been put in is valid from their perspective, and obviously they have agreed that they will be doing this as fast as possible. So we're hoping that literally within weeks we can make the first payment.
All right, that's all the time we have. Thank you very much for giving us your side of the story, giving us a sense of, I guess, how the compensation process is being stifled by the pandemic and many other related issues. Professor May Hermanus is the chair of the Tshiamiso Trust, and the trust itself was given the mandate to ensure that those who have silicosis or work-related tuberculosis are in fact compensated.